It's been about 24 hours since the Switch 2 Direct as I'm recording this. I kind of wanted to give my unfiltered, thoughts and unscripted regarding Tetris 2S because I've had a lot of, thinking about this, and I can't find, any positives that make this release worthwhile. I feel that Tetris 2S existing benefits the Tetris company more than it does SEGA and the Puyo identity, because the reason Tetris 1 worked with the original Switch release is because that was the first Puyo release in 10 years. Having Tetris with it absolutely boosted the brand, and it made people wary of the series again. When Tetris 2 came out, there was already a decent Western community for Puyo. It didn't exactly need the Tetris support. Nonetheless, it still had support from fans because people loved the characters in it. They loved the Tetra crew, they loved X. Things like that are what drew them back more than the Tetris branding. With Tetris 2S, it feels like the things they're advertising to us in a full price re-release is not worth it if you already own the game. I don't think the new mode and mouse support warrants a new full re-release, especially when Nintendo themselves are offering upgrades for games if you already own them for less than $10-15. I feel you're doing something wrong if Nintendo's doing that sort of business practice better than you. I'm not gonna act like Sega's never done this, because we've seen all the Atlas releases they've had. We've seen Royal, we've seen SMT Vengeance. But the things with those is that despite being full re-releases, they had so much more content coming with them. Vengeance had an entire new story with it and a bunch more demons. Royal had the third semester and all the additional content with Mementos and the other social links. Puyo Tetris 2S, I feel like people are going to be less inclined to rebuy a puzzle game more than they are an RPG. And I don't understand the thought process instead of just making this a free paid upgrade, or at the very least a $5 DLC. Again, I feel like it's a detriment to the Puyo branding to keep relying on the Tetris company and leaning on Puyo Tetris as its own mini-series. It doesn't help with the fact that the first original standalone Puyo game in over 10 years, with original content, a brand new story, is stuck on Apple products because of the contract they have. And whenever that gets ported or we get our new mainline game, they're gonna have to fight with the market for people who already own Tetris 2S, because why are they gonna want to rebuy a game if they already have the same gameplay with Tetris 2? It doesn't make sense from a marketing standpoint to have two conflicting games when it comes to the base Puyo gameplay. Granted, you'll always have the diehard fans that care about Fever, that care about Sun, that care about all the side modes. But if you're appealing to a casual gamer player base, they're not gonna care about that sort of thing. They have the base Tetris, they have Sprint, Marathon, and for all they care, they have Puyo 2. That's all they really need. Above all, I feel like this was not the right use of the resources Sega has, and I feel it should have been put into other things. And not to mention all of the issues Tetris 2 had on its release. They removed solo Puyo and Tetris rooms, so you can't just have one separate room, which vastly hinders Puyo more than it does Tetris. And not to mention, every other platform release it had was almost dead on arrival because everyone was on Nintendo Switch. The fact this series doesn't have crossplay is its biggest detriment and will forever hold the series back until it happens. I say this a lot, I say this literally every time a hot takes thread for Puyo comes up. Solely from a casual gamer standpoint, having crossplay in your game will forever be more important than any story you put into it. But in that same regard, crossplay won't happen because this is a Switch exclusive re-release. I can say I completely understand that, because it's redundant to make a new re-release on other platforms when all you're doing is adding the Joy-Con mouse support and one more mode. But like I said earlier, all of those things could have simply been an upgrade and an update to the other games. It didn't warrant a full new re-release. You need to fix, like, your competitive, you need to bring back the solo queue, like Puyo and Tetris rooms. You need crossplay, obviously, I've said that way too much. You need better balancing when it comes to Puyo vs. Tetris. That's been said for years, I feel like everybody agrees with that. And above all, I can't honestly say that this was needed in the slightest. Is this better than a Tetris 3? Absolutely. I feel like if there was a Tetris 3, it would have just cemented the brand as leaning on Tetris forever. Do I wish that this was Puzzle Pop or something else? Absolutely. But Puzzle Pop isn't probably happening for years due to the Apple contracts. I'm just overall disappointed that this is where the Puyo series is at currently. Our only choices for a concurrent Puyo player base is to either own a Nintendo Switch, own a Nintendo Switch 2 for 2S coming out, because that's what they're going to be pushing, or play on an iPhone, which nobody wants to do. I love Puzzle Pop. I think it's one of the best games in recent years in terms of the story and the other features like I mentioned, but it was the biggest mistake to put all of those resources into an Apple Arcade exclusive. And I feel these consistent missteps from SEGA on behalf of the Puyo franchise is what's going to detriment it in the West most of all.